Welcome to the ultimate Sequential Oberheim tier ranking live. So the polls are open. Let your voice be heard. If you look in the description, I've got the 3 links for the 3 different categories we're going to be ranking all of the current Sequential Oberheim synthesizers in. So if you already are familiar with these synths, you could go ahead and open those up and rank them right now. Or you can play along and rank them as we go during the live stream. So let me explain how this live stream is going to go. First off, to refresh our palettes, we're going to watch the official introduction videos of all 10 of these synthesizers. So they're the modern ones, no DSI, no vintage. We're going to watch the official introductory videos so that we can remember what all these synths sound like. And then I'm going to go through and rank all of them in 3 different categories. So category number 1 is going to be on the sound. So this is like the raw tone of the filter and oscillators for these Sequential and Oberheim synths. Category 2 is going to be depth. So think the possibilities, the flexible modulation, the sound design, all of that type of stuff contributes to depth, not necessarily sound. And then category 3 is the interface. How easy is it to program? How intuitive is it? Are the knobs big enough? Are you jamming your fingers in between? All of that sort of a thing. So as an example to help you kind of conceptualize the difference between these 3 categories, let's talk about the Prophet 5, which we won't be ranking tonight, but we will be ranking the Prophet 10. So the Prophet 5, it's got to rank pretty high in terms of the sound, right? It's one of the most classic synthesizers. It's the most iconic analog polysynth of all time, probably. So it ranked pretty high with that. And then with the interface, it's probably got to rank pretty high with that as well, because it's 1 knob per function. There's literally 0 menu diving. And then when we talk about depth, though, pretty much it's got to rank pretty low, right? Because almost every sequential synth since then has in some way added features and things to that original Prophet 5 architecture. So that's a way that you can think about the 3 different categories. Again, the polls are open down below. Please let your voice be heard. Go ahead and rank them if you want, or I'm going to, after we watch the official videos, I'm going to rank them in these 3 categories so you can sort of play along with me if you want. Now, the way the points work is the highest point, like the synth that gets first place in the category gets 10 points. So if a synth scored first in all 3 categories, it would get 30 points. And if it got the lowest score in all 3 categories, it would get 3 points. Next, we're going to look at the results of your guys' rankings. And the really cool part is the same idea, but your points count for double. So the final score is only going to be contributed 1/3 from me and 2/3 what you guys rank. And if it sounds like a lot of math, the good news is I've already got this set up in Google Sheets, so it's going to be as painless as math ever is. The math be mathin', as the kids like to say. And then finally, we will determine the ultimate Sequential Oberheim tier ranking by price per point. So we're going to divide the price by the final score, and that'll give us price per point, and we will rank them. Because at the end of the day, you worked really hard for that money you've got burning in your pocket looking at synth videos, right? So I want to make sure you get the most value. That's what we're about here on the Vulture Culture channel, is about value for synthesizers, not just whatever's cheapest. And also, just because the synth is really expensive doesn't mean it's necessarily the best either for you. So that's the goal of tonight's stream, is to determine what's the best Sequential Oberheim synth for you. Super excited to be checking out this iconic American synthesizer manufacturer. I think without further ado, we're going to start off the videos, and we're going to watch them in order of cheapest. So you could get one of these Fourms for $7.99 right now, up to the most expensive. So let's begin. Will somebody make sure, let me know if you can hear everything, if everything sounds good in the chat. Thank you. Thanks to Robbie. Can I get a scum cheers? Sounds good. DeKarmic, yes, that will factor into my rankings. But of course, you can rank it however you want. We've seen these hands too many times on this channel, but it is what it is. Definitely gritty. Totally Alarock. All right, now we're jumping into TO5, which is on sale right now. I think for $1,600, something like that. This is the best ad I've ever seen for a synth. So we just went from the worst to the best. Will somebody ban Parbs? That's a joke. Don't ban him. Cheers. This sounds so fucking good. It's like the best sounding ad ever. That Oberheim 2-pole SEM filter. I mean, this synth will probably rank really high, and it's crazy to think it's the second cheapest synth you can get from Sequential or Oberheim on sale right now. That's right, Alarock. Oh. A little bit of hand dancing in the background, though. It does sound like Devin, doesn't it? This is the take 5. $1,683 right now. Sequential knows how to make an ad, don't they? Oh, come on now. Don't tease me. So great to see Dave for a second there. And Freeze, I can actually see that. I could see Fourm because it seems a little bit more baseline aggressive, if that makes sense. But you guys will have to fill me in as we go. Please try to sway my opinion as we go. So this is the Sequential Pro 3, which I believe you can get for $2,000 right now. I don't know if it's just me, but to me, this is like actually the last DSI synth, if that makes sense. Thank you so much, Damien. Welcome. Wow. Wow. Synthanon with the hot take. Wow. So my thing about the Pro 3 that's going to make it's much easier to compare apples to apples with polysynths when we get into terms of like sound design, for instance. That's going to be difficult to rank some of these against each other. That's the hardest part of this thing. Carl, welcome. We got so many awesome people here. I know you're a big fan of the Rev 2. And that's another one. It's like, oof, I'm scared of how that one's going to rank. Speaking of Rev 2, here she is.
This is my job. It's what I've been doing for 40 years now. You know, it's one thing to build instruments, but going out and watching people actually play the instruments is really fun, and that's the real payoff. I don't think a whole lot about what I did 40 years ago or 20 years ago, because it's much more interesting to be thinking about what we're doing now and what we want to do next. We're not out to conquer the world. We just want to craft cool instruments that we want to make and see how it goes. Every once in a while, though, of course, I reflect on some of the things that have happened in the past, because somebody will mention it, bring it up, and it is pretty amazing to think back sometimes about some of the products that I've done over the years. When I was still a one-person company, I decided it was time to build a lower-cost, 8-voice polyphonic synth. 2007 is when I started the Prophet 08 design, so it's actually been out for 10 years now. And this was kind of the first polyphonic analog synthesizer to come out in quite a long time. And yet people still want to use it, because it's been a road warrior out there. People using it a lot on records and so forth. And at this point, we've actually sold more Prophet 08s than we sold Prophet 5s back in the day. Since the Prophet 08 was so successful for so long, and we just knew it was time for an update, so we decided to do a new version of it, to use modern technology, add a bunch of features, at the same time lower the cost, make it a more roadworthy product. I mean, everything about it we knew we could improve, and yet we can keep the legacy of the Prophet 08 going for that much longer. The new product is called the Rev 2. Compared to the Prophet 08, in the Rev 2, we've added a whole ton of new features. We've added wave shape modulation, and we also have a polyphonic step sequencer that could be individual on the 2 layers. The mod matrix in the Rev 2 is twice as big as the one in the Prophet 08. And we have a bunch of cool effects. We have reverb, we have choruses, flangers, phasers, BBDs, delays, just a whole box of things to play with. We have USB, we have integrated power supply, so no more wall wart. We have a nice OLED display. Like the Prophet 08, the Rev 2 has Curtis filters, which gives it that unique sound. So it's different than the OB-X8 and the Prophet 6, which have different filters. You can actually download your sounds from the Prophet 08 into the Rev 2, and they will sound exactly the same. And best of all, it comes with 16 voices, which is great because if you have a split program, you could do 8 and 8, or stacked programs, you could play 8 voices at a time, or you could just go crazy with 16 voices across the keyboard. The Rev 2 is built like a tank. It's built to stand the rigors of the road. The Rev 2 continues the legacy of the Prophet 08. It's the same instrument, the same sound, times 10. It's hard to describe how much more is in there compared to the original. It's just an awesome synth.
So good. All right, guys. Can I get some scum pros in the chat for Dave Smith real quick? Without whom none of us would be here doing what we're doing tonight. So can I get a scum pro in the chat for Mr. Smith? What an incredible legacy, not just for Sequential, but for everything. I mean, just such an important person. Thank you very much. All right, next up, we're jumping into the Prophet 6. So this one's a really interesting one, how it's going to rank versus the Rev 2. Obviously, a lot more voices. Also, the 6 is kind of old in a way, like the Rev 2. Yeah, that's right, Alarock. That's correct. So let's check this out. But boy, yammy yams. That's awesome.
I'm Dave Smith here with a special new product introduction, the Sequential Prophet 6. We decided to pay homage to the analog polysynth that started it all, the Prophet 5. So is it a reissue? No. Think of the Prophet 6 as vintage with a modern twist. So what does it have in common? Well, besides the sequential name, it has a 100% analog signal path with voltage-controlled oscillators, filters, and amplifiers. It's also got a very familiar classic interface, which makes navigation a breeze. There is absolutely no menu diving. We brought back the preset button to make all controls live. Press it, and what you see is what you hear.
Whew.
So what's different? First of all, it has 6 voices. We also have a new oscillator section with 2 discrete voltage-controlled oscillators per voice. This is a completely new design, engineered from the ground up. Wave shapes include sawtooth, square, pulse, and triangle. Our oscillators are very stable, so we've included a slop parameter so you can create as much movement and drift as you'd like. There's also a sub-oscillator per voice for immediate low-end enhancement and a noise generator too. The low-pass filter is a discrete 4-pole design inspired by the original Prophet 5, and we added an analog resonant high-pass filter. Classic filters, classic sound. Another modern addition is the dual digital effects section. The effects include straight delay, bucket brigade, chorus, phaser, and reverbs. The separate stereo distortion is pure analog. And Polymod is back, like the original, only tweaked and supercharged a bit. There's a full-featured arpeggiator, and a polyphonic step sequencer that records easily from the keyboard.
It's pretty hot.
And of course, everything from the ARP to the sequencer and effects can be externally synced.
I know,
all of
adapt.
these features are packed into a 4-octave keyboard. It's the perfect balance between portability and performance.
Fat. The bass on this thing is crazy. Pretty amazing too, aquatic.
This is an instrument that simply begs to be played. It sounds amazing and it's just so much fun. It is with great pride that I present to you the Prophet 6. Sequential is back.
Wow. Now, one thing that's going to be really interesting comparing Rev 2 to Prophet 6, going off of what Dave said, was he's like, we brought Polymod back, which would imply it wasn't on the 08 and therefore not on the Rev 2. So I'm wondering, any of you Rev 2 experts out there, does that have the Polymod section or do you have to menu dive for it? Now, it's fine if you have to menu dive, but we're going to have to rank all of these based on interface, and we're going to be splitting hairs because the truth is all of the Sequential Oberheim synths have great interfaces. It's like they're the best at that for sure. So that's going to be a really interesting little point there, considering that. Sean Johnson, welcome. And again, we're pulling just the official introduction videos. So some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. We're just going to get what we get, you know. And one more thing I'd just like to remind anybody who's new to the stream that's showing up right now is that the polls are open down below. So if you look in the links in the description, you'll see 3 links for 3 separate polls: sound design depth, and interface. So go ahead and rank them if you want. We've got 4 more videos to watch, and then I'm going to be jumping in, ranking each of these synthesizers based on sound. Agreed, Dub, agreed. That's awesome, Synthonon. I don't think I've ever seen this ad. Yes, sir. Adorable. Mr. Mighty Pinto, welcome. All right, so moving on to the dark horse, the Sequential Trigon 6. By the way, all of these are about the same price. I think about $3,500, $3,600, something like that.
The filter is really the heart and soul of any analog subtractive synthesizer. It's the one component of the voice that really distinguishes one synth from another. So that was the basis and the start of designing the Trigon 6. In the Prophet 6, we created a platform by which there is a what you see is what you hear user interface. There's no menu diving, everything is right there on the panel. Took that a step farther by making the OB-X, giving you that character of the SEM filter. It just became kind of obvious the missing piece of the puzzle was the ladder filter, and it just rounds out that trio of instruments really well.
We first implemented a ladder filter on the Pro 3 and found it to be a really, really pleasing complement to the Prophet 6 and Oberheim sounds. So it was the natural next progression to put that into a polyphonic instrument. While it retains those same rich classic tones that you associate with ladder filters of yesteryear, it has a few new features that set it apart from those classic instruments, including a new two-pole mode. The Trigon 6 employs a feedback circuit, classically used on synths where you would route the audio output back to the audio input. And that can go from a very kind of subtle harmonic richness to full-on audio destruction. So you have a certain tuned aspect to the feedback, and it's wild and chaotic, and you can be just right on the hairy edge of all these new sounds and dial it back, and it'll be creamy and sweet and smooth again. On the other end, we've also employed a filter drive circuit that can give a really interesting kind of growly texture to the sound and gives this very interesting intermodulation distortion that's very unique.
The Trigon 6 has 3 discrete analog oscillators, VCOs, that, given all the modulation capabilities of our synths, especially with polymod, allows you to do things with pulse width modulation, say with 3 oscillators, that gives you a lot of motion to the sound and gives you a complexity and a depth of sound.
It's got this big, deep space, so you can have very simple things going on. A single instrument that's pleasant and not overwhelming, kind of thick and juicy in this very interesting, compelling way. Users of the Prophet 6 and OB-X will feel instantly at home with the Trigon 6 and recognize it as a unique tone and new addition to their sonic palette, really enabling their creativity and inspiration in new music. This instrument will lead you to new places and give you a new understanding of what you're trying to express. The Trigon 6 was really a passion project for Dave Smith. He was really able to focus on the instrument as a lover of synthesis, an engineer. It's a fitting bookend to his legacy and completes this trinity of these classic sounds from classic designers of the past 50, 60, 70 years. Amazing people with amazing ideas that changed the world of music.
He used PWM for everything.
He assembled a team that would be able to do all aspects of synthesizer design and development. I think he would be very pleased to see that we were able to carry through with this project and finish it in a way that I think he would have been proud of.
So this one is interesting, and I think Night Runner just kind of nailed it, which is it doesn't have that bass compensation, although the drive essentially will cause bass compensation. I don't know if you heard that earlier, but when they were cranking it in the demo, you could hear that. And the reason for that is that when you take a a filter and drive it, you're essentially pushing more signal into it. And in the case of like a ladder filter, you're actually changing the filter response from about 24 decibels per octave to 36. So it's going to be sharper, darker, but it's different sort of sound than the drive on the other sequential synths. And I'm saying this not as a way to poison the well, but just let's all objectively say that was the worst ad from the 8 we've watched so far, other than maybe Fourm, right? Which I almost don't count. But in a way, Fourm was still what it was. Now, even saying that, I felt myself getting a little choked up just seeing this was the first one that came out, I think, after Dave Smith passed, and just what an incredible legacy. Again, can I get some scum pros in the chat for the real legend himself? Oh my God. It really didn't do a good job of selling me on this synthesizer. So 2 videos left. We have the Prophet 5 and then the OB-X8. This is a longer one.
In the early 70s, electronics, Silicon Valley, it was all just evolving as I was just getting into the scene. And by the middle of the decade, my day job was working with microprocessors because they came out of Silicon Valley also. At the same time, I was in San Jose, a few miles away. Emu was in an apartment in Santa Clara. Doug Curtis was working in Los Gatos at the time. Keyboard Magazine started almost in walking distance in Cupertino. So there was just so much synergy there. That was really the center of action. So I thought, oh, microprocessor, chipset, I could build a polyphonic synth and I could make it programmable because of a microprocessor. I hesitated for a few months because I thought somebody else would do it, but then when it seemed like nobody was, then I quit my job in early 1977 and started working around the clock on what became the Prophet 5.
You saw a split second there. It said Model 1000. That was the original name of the Prophet 5.
When we first showed it at the first NAMM show in 1978 in January, I remember, I don't know if I flew down or drove down with the unit, and all night the night before I was still making changes and tweaking stuff, and it barely made, I don't even think I was there when the doors opened. I think I brought it in a few hours late and there were already people waiting to see it. It was clear that it was an immediate hit. We were a tiny company, there were only a few of us, and it was like, oh shit, now we got to go back and actually build these things and then ship them. And again, I was 27, I didn't know how to run a company, I was just kind of seat of the pants the whole way, just, okay, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And then one of the bigger problems we had was all these big musicians were just calling all the time. I have one an order at Guitar Center, and they said it's not going to be here for 6 months. Do you know who I am? And we would have loved to have been able to ship, but we had a year, 2-year backlog. We just couldn't build them fast enough for the demand. The Prophet 5 was special, the way it looked, the way it sounded, the programmability, the polyphony. For the first time, people could play chords and change sounds. And of course, as we know, ever since then, every synth that's not a mono synth is basically a version of the Prophet 5.
It's true.
People have been asking me to redo the Prophet 5 almost since we stopped building it in the early 80s.
That's awesome.
We talked about it once in a while, and as it turned out, when we were finishing up the Pro 3, I'd go back to my old Prophet 5 and I'd listen to all the sounds that it can make, and I go, how could something this simple sound so good and have such a wide variety of sounds? How is that possible? And, well, it's because it's a really cool synth. Just copying something, that's not so interesting, but being able to take the original to the next level. So Rev 1, Rev 2, Rev 3, and then this is the new one, a Rev 4. We're really the only people that are qualified to do that. We know what the progression should feel like. First, it's definitely a Prophet 5. Nothing ever looks like this except a Prophet 5. The basic central core of the analog signal path is exactly the same. We did start with the actual 3340 VCOs. We're buying them from on-chip systems. We collected a number of Rev 3s and a Rev 2 and a Rev 1. I think we had up to 5 of them at one point, and they were all different. So which one do you pick as a Rev 3? There were just so many little decisions like that we had to make, and people always argued about Rev 1, 2s versus Rev 3s because the filters were different. So we said, let's put in both. We still can get the original Curtis chips from on-chip systems. That was Doug's company. For the SSM 2040, the SSI had Dave Rossum design a 2140 that's an updated version of the 2040. And since Dave also designed the 2040 40 years ago, it's authentic, it's the real thing. So now you can just hit a switch and change filters.
Still brilliant.
The second step was, well, you know, that's not all there is in difference between the different units. We said, let's put a knob there and let's call it a vintage knob. Our new Prophet 5 is a Rev 4. So when you have the vintage knob at 4, everything's nice and tight. You know, the tuning's tight, envelopes are tight, everything is, you know, what you would expect in a modern day instrument. As you get towards 3, it starts loosening up just a little. But when you start getting to 2, and especially to 1, it's spread all over the place. And for a lot of sounds, if you're doing chords and pads, having it set around 2 really sounds awesome. We just thought, wow, I have a Rev 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 all in one box. And it actually does that. I mean, it's really pretty fun to play with. Some of the things we added were obvious. We had to have real MIDI and USB, of course. We added where the cassette switches used to be. We now have one that's for aftertouch and one that's for velocity. And it's amazing to play a Prophet 5 with velocity. It kind of surprised us, actually. The original Rev 1 and 2 Prophet 5s had 40 programs, and there's a lot of those sounds. You listen to it and you can go, oh yeah, that's this song, or that's this song, because it was. So of course we have those same 40 sounds in the new one. And we found that this is capable of a much wider sound palette than the originals. You can nail the original sounds, of course, because it's the same parts, but it goes way beyond that. There's a bunch of other little hidden things here and there.
I like a stiff knob.
We wanted it to look the same. I didn't want to add a whole bunch of extra switches and knobs. When I originally designed the Prophet 5, I designed it so it could also be a 10 voice by adding a second voice card. This time around, everything's a whole lot more efficient internally, so we can do 10 voices reliably. So now you can buy the new Prophet 5 as a Prophet 5 or a Prophet 10. It is interesting to look back at this as kind of like bookends, you know, like Prophet 5 to Prophet 5. I just turned 70, so this is it. This is my birthday present to the world.
Wow. Ugh. I mean, just, okay. Incredible ad, right? One thing for the context of this ranking video, we're doing the Prophet 10, not the 5. One of the reasons is because price point wise, the Prophet 5, I think is $3,600 versus the OB-X8, Trigon 6, and Prophet 6 are all $3,500. So it's kind of all in that same price range. Whereas the Prophet 10 is like 44, I want to say. And that's a better middle ground between those synths and the OB-X8. And also, I think there's a way in which the Prophet 5 could get slaughtered in this comparison, just because it doesn't do as much as the other ones. But the Prophet 10, at least now that puts it in that same conversation with the Rev 2 as really being one of the only two synths that feels like really could be a good, or not multi-timbral, but bi-timbral synthesizer. So we're on to the last video here. Can I get some Scum Pros in the chat? The bad boys here. Crazy, Derek. I'm so sorry. Can we get some Scum Obers in the chat? Silly me. Cheers. TO5 one was a better one though, unfortunately. Even though that was great. So now it's time for us to jump in to the actual ranking. So we're going to start with, I'm going to rank the sound of the 10 synths we've just checked out. And I'll say it for anybody who's new, who's shown up since we started, that the 3 categories we're ranking on are, the polls are live down below. So you can click those links and vote along, and we're going to compare your results with mine super soon. So let's jump on over here. So you can see we have our classic tier list, and these synths are in no particular order. So we're going to just start by putting the Prophet Rev 2 dead in the middle. Now we're ranking on sound first, then we're going to stop and we're going to add the points up, and then we're going to rank on the depth, which is sound design. So sound and sound design are different here, right? We're just going on the raw tone of the thing right now, and then we're going to get back to that. Next, we have the Prophet 3. So this is interesting. If it was me, there's a way in which I think I'd probably have to rank I don't know, because the Prophet 3 has that third digital oscillator, you know? And that seems like very hard to ignore. This is like right off the bat, this is really probably the hardest one here. Let me just look at it and see if I'd feel good about this. The advantage of the Rev 2 is that it's bitimbral, which I don't think should count for much. But against a monosynth, maybe it does. I think the Prophet 12 is awesome. I have one, and I think it's still valid. I wouldn't overpay for it. And I guess comparing it to some of the modern stuff, we could kind of kick that around in a minute. So what about if it was here? Oh, we're doing raw sound right now. Yeah, so I'm going to have to put it above it. We're doing raw sound, not sound design. I gaslit myself. Next up, we have TO5. And this one... Oh, wait, that's Take 5. Yeah, that's the Take 5. Unfortunately, one thing that I don't love about Sequential Oberheim is that they love a similar looking synthesizer. Yeah. So for me... Am I crazy to put TO5 above Pro 2? Now, to Dub's point here, we've got 3 separate filters. Basically a mini, an Oberheim, and a Pro, whereas TO5 only has that incredible morphing SEM filter. So Take 5, I'm thinking has to go below Pro 3, just in terms of how flexible Pro 3 is. Now, the fact that it's a mono synth, we might have to come back around to it. But we've got a third digital oscillator. And yeah, I just think that that's looking correct. Now, for raw sound, I'm afraid the Rev 2 might get slaughtered just because it's got digitally controlled oscillators, you know. So then, next up, we have TO5. Now, TO, I'm going to put ahead of Take 5 because it does have that morphing SEM filter, which I would rank pretty much towards the top. In fact, I'm going to probably, well, we'll leave it there for now, I think. Let's see. Vincent Presley, welcome, my friend. Pro 3 messed up bad by not keeping the same filters and routing the same on the Pro 2. Talk to me about that, because someone else was saying that too. Sorry, I forgot your name. Who was saying the Pro 2 was better. Give me the quick and dirty on why that is. All right, so Fourm, sound design wise, I'm going to rank it below Rev 2, and the biggest reason is that Rev 2 can be used bitembrally, so it's a really awesome stereo synthesizer. Which I don't believe the Fourm is. We're just talking raw tone. I do think the Fourm might do better than certain synths. Now, the Prophet 6, with its discrete oscillators, is gotta rank ahead of the Rev 2. Again, this is just in pure sound. And this is one of those things. It's brutal that we have to rank all of these, because every Sequential Oberheim synth sounds great. Every one of them has a great interface. So we really have to split hairs here. And if for nothing else, those discrete VCOs, for me, have a little bit of an advantage there. Pro 2 has the hack decimate stuff like the Prophet 12, right? The Pro 2 is very much in that polyevolver Prophet 12 DSI sort of realm, which is good. This is super brutal. I appreciate that you appreciate that. How you doing, Sam? So I think, what am I looking at here? Now, the question is the Prophet 6, does that rank above TO5 or Take 5? Well, I think you can make an argument that it should rank above Take 5. Just because you've got that extra oscillator. I don't think I can say that Take 5's adding anything to the equation. But I'm still leaning towards TO5 as the... Honestly, I would personally rather have that incredible filter resonance from TO5 than a Prophet 6. I don't know if I'm crazy, but the great thing is you guys can vote on how you would rank them in terms of sound, and you know, that's perfectly good. Let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, tune feedback is huge. The OB-X8. Okay, so OB-6 is better. So you're saying OB-6 is number one for sound over OB-X8? That's interesting. Grit, hack, air, all of that stuff. Okay. But it still has analog oscillators, right? The Pro 2, or is it digital? All right, so then we have the Oberheim OB-X8. So I'm going to just go ahead, and I think this is not controversial. It's going in S tier. We might move it, but it probably is the best sounding of all of them. And I have a little bit, I have a lot of a bias towards the Oberheim sound. There's a perfectly valid position to have that you prefer the Prophet sound, right? So on this channel, I'm spouting my mouth off with all sorts of opinions about which filter chips sound better and stuff. And a lot of that I think is more objective than people realize. Like, we are talking about the science of frequencies and which frequencies sound better or worse. I actually think that's a real thing, right? And it's not as subjective as people think if 90% of people agree. But there's a totally valid world if you prefer ladder filters, or you prefer SEM filters, or you prefer Prophet style filters. Those are all valid opinions. Pro 2's all digital. Oh, okay, I see. For some reason, I had it in my head that it was analog. I think it was Madeira. He did a review, and I sort of took the implication that there was that. Sean disagrees with me. He thinks it's only taste. 2 separate filters and lots of routing. Pro 3 slimmed it down to 1 multi-mode filter. Maybe there's a hidden high pass in the effects. P2 is more like the crazy Prophet 12 and Prophet Evolver synths. So then we have the original Prophet 5. Now this is really tough. So let's start with it in S tier, but we're going to have 2 per tier. So does the Pro 3 beat it in terms of tone? I mean, kind of, right? Like, it's got that extremely flexible... It's got that extremely flexible filter. Even though it's not 2 filters, I hear you. What other synths on this list have 2 filters per voice? I mean, I guess the Prophet 6 has... The Prophet 6 has a resonant high-pass filter like the Polyevolver and Prophet 12. So... So, let's see. Could we live in a world where Prophet 6 is ahead of Prophet 5? Is that insane? Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think the the 08 is probably one of the coolest synths ever. I've thought about buying one. I'm in a weird way almost more interested in getting an 08 than a Rev 2. It's just everybody seems so objectively like they prefer the Rev 2 12 voice. Sean, I agree with that. Like, when you start getting into ladder versus SEM versus the 3 revisions of the Odyssey, they're all great. There is some choice in there, and then there's sometimes where a filter, especially if you compare similar filters, where you could probably make a distinction and say, okay, you know, the 3372 on the Matrix 12 versus the 3372, exact same filter on the Prophet 600. Which one sounds better? You know, there's going to be a consensus on that one. It's less objective than people think, in my humble opinion. Nora, I'd love to help you with that, but this is not the stream to explain Omnisphere 3. I do, if you look at the playlist section of this channel, I have a whole playlist on Omnisphere 3 and Omnisphere in general. It'd be a great place to start checking it out. All right, guys, seriously though, is there a world where the Prophet 6 sounds better than the Prophet 5? Like, are we moving towards something that looks like this? Because right now, I'm thinking that might actually be it. Then again, the Prophet 6 is more of a courtesy sort of a sound, whereas you can get that SSM sound out of the Prophet 5. So, okay. People are saying no. Let's see. Mr. Cowfood, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. We'll put the Prophet 5 ahead of the 6. I think that's right. Now the question is Prophet 5 versus Pro 3. Oh, I should clarify. Prophet 10 versus Pro 3. You're really talking about paraphonic, being able to play 3 chords, 1 digital oscillator, do some really cool stuff, as opposed to like one of the most classic sounds of all time. Yeah, I mean, trust me when I say the Prophet 10 cannot drop below A because it's like the North Star. But the Pro 3 versus the Prophet 10, that's a really tough one. I think I'm going to have to go Prophet 10 and then the Pro 3. I just think the Prophet 10, this is like another element of talking about some of these filters, is that it's maybe the case that the first time it gets done, that gets stamped into our collective unconscious, right? Like, part of the problem with cloning something like a Jupiter 8 is we all know how a Jupiter 8 sounds. And if it doesn't sound exactly like that, then it feels less than, you know. I think the Pro 3, for everything it is, it's probably the most powerful on the list because it benefits from only having to have one voice. I do think we have to give the Prophet 5/10 its credit, and especially the fact that you can use it bitambrally. We're going to give it the credit there. Now, next up, we have the OB-X6. which is arguable if it sounds any like the OB-6, the OB-X8, and the TO5 all sound really close to each other. So I'm thinking it needs to go like this. What are we thinking, guys? Where are we at? Oh, this is the Prophet. Oh, this is the Trigon 6 at B tier here. Okay, we'll have to adjust for that. So let's just pop that in there. OB-6 versus Pro 3. I think it's got to be Pro 3 because the Pro 3 has that OB-6 filter built in, right? Yeah. Swan of Nutella. That's not right because we're ranking these. So we're giving them a point based off of where they rank. So the number 1 slot, the first in S tier gets 10 points and the lowest of D tier gets 1 point. And we're going to be doing that in 3 categories. So first we're ranking sound, then we're ranking the depth, the modulation possibilities, the sound design, all of that type of stuff. And then finally we're ranking the interface, the ease of programmability. So that's how it's going to go tonight. So is it crazy to say that I think TO5 is a better sounding synth than Prophet 6? I don't think so. Starsky Carr did a video comparing his OB-6 to the TO5. They sound fucking virtual, almost there with maybe a little bit of an edge. Now, one thing for me in my personal view is I'm not ranking shit based off of the digital effects that are built in. I don't care about that. I don't ever buy an analog synth worrying about the digital effects because the thing is that as time marches on, what was popular in digital effects now in 10 years will be different, and the synths that come out then will make the synths that come out now sound not so good. The same is not true for analog synths, right? There's a reason people are still paying so much for vintage Prophet 5s, right? This entire activity is satanic. I know, it's rough. It's rough. Okay, I think I'm vaguely... Why would the Prophet Rev Take 5? I'm putting the Prophet Rev 2 ahead of Take 5. Now the real question is, does the Prophet Rev 2 beat the Prophet 6? I think just narrowly not because of the VCOs, the discrete. Vincent's team TO5. And I'd like to remind everybody who's new here that the polls are open down below. So first 3 links in the description, go ahead and rank them yourself because your points, your votes count for twice of mine when we do the final analysis. So we've got the Trigon 6. Now, I should have mentioned it when we were listening to the demo, but the Trigon 6 is a memory Moog. That's what it is. It's got 3 oscillators per voice like the memory Moog, and unlike the other synths we're looking at here, which I don't think any of them have 3 oscillators per voice, they'll be like 2 oscillators in a sub, something like that. Trader says Fourm sounds better than Take 5. That's interesting. Rev 3 over Take 5 for raw sound. Interesting. Okay, maybe I'll swap it back for now. Let's swap it back. Rev 3 for me, I'm sorry, the Rev 2 for me, the big deal with it is that the bitembrality of it, I think, opens it up in terms of sound. But I guess if you had to be real nitpicky about the filters and oscillators, they're going to be the weakest oscillators, although you get 16 of them. I guess we're going to have to give it the points in the depth category, right? Trigon ladder filter, 3 oscillators, the drive, at least, you know, from what I've heard of it, is it fucked up that I'm putting it in last? This is my personal list. Someone stop me here. I'm surprised people are saying that the Fourm sounds better than the Rev 2. I don't think I can quite give the Rev 2 all of this. Let's see. It's kind of in the same niche as a monosynth, but it's polyphonic. Yeah. I'd fight someone over saying the Rev 2 has the weakest oscillators. I just mean that they're digitally controlled, right? So that changes the nature of cross mod. And, you know, I think they were able to port the vintage mode back to it though, right? So like what used to be slop is now vintage on sequential synths, meaning that what used to be oscillator slop just made the oscillators go all squiggly. But now a lot of things go squiggly, like the envelopes, and they sound more realistic. I think the Rev 2 is absolutely amazing. Swan says I have to rank it as low as reasonable. Strangely, I'd probably rate Trigon higher than me. Yeah, it has the vintage mode ported back. Trader is Team Fourm over Rev 2, but tell me why. Like, what do you like about Fourm over Rev 2 and Take 5? That's the interesting discussion for me. Right now, I'm putting Trigon over Fourm. Because let's be real here. At least with the Trigon, it's a very unique voice. Which, for me, again, this is my ranking, counts for more. You'll notice I have a few synths. Part of that is I like how unique vintage synths are. How each one has its own voice, whereas the modern synths, not so much. Are you guys hearing that intermittent crackle that's going on? I can't tell what that is. Not that crackle. That was a real good crackle. Sorry. I don't know if it's just my headphones or something. It is difficult to judge over YouTube demos. I know a lot of the people here are big Sequential Oberheim fans. We even have at least one artist who's actually a sequential artist in the chat. Swan says it should be dead last. I could see that. Yeah. I could see the argument for putting Rev 2 dead last. And again, this is so hard because the Rev 2 is one of the best sounding synths ever. I'm thinking that, you know, there's a world in which Pro 3 should be S tier. I think it's okay to put OB-X8 TO above of Prophet 6, ahead of Take 5. That all makes sense. Rev 2, man, it is hard to know where to put Rev 2. And should it be like this? Should the Rev 2 be in D tier? I think that's unfortunately right. There's a world in which this looks right to me. Just if we're going off of like DCOs to VCOs and all of that. Maybe even in a world where Trigon surpasses Take 5. But not for me, not personally. I do think I'd rather have a Trigon in terms of sound than Fourm, though. Man, this is tough. This is really tough. It is, the whole list is splitting hairs, but Alarock, I agree with you. DCO synth. I was just doing a video on the JX8P that'll be coming out soon, and it just sounds great, you know. But it's when you only have hairs to split, the unfortunate thing is the label is different, you know. If we lived in a world where I didn't know the difference of a DCO to VCO, I don't know if it would matter as much, you know. Yeah. I think this is right. I think this is the right amount. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take that information and then jump into a tier list over here. So what's going on? Oh, what is happening on my... Here we go. I need this here. So we're going to add the points in. So in the first category, OB-X8 gets 10, and then Prophet 10 gets 9 points. Then Sequential Pro 3, punching way above its class, gets 8 points. And then OB-6 gets 7. Then in B tier, we have TO5, punching above its class, with 6. And then the Prophet 6 with 5. Then in C tier, we have Take 5 and the Trigon. So that's doing pretty bad. Points. There we go. And then... Oh, I'm losing my monitoring there. Sorry. Then, unfortunately, in D tier, we have 4. And then last, we've got the Rev 2. Oh, it's heartbreaking to do it that way. But This is the beginning of it. So now look and see. One second, guys. I gotta just kind of fix this cable. It's giving me some problems. It's time to replace that cable, I can tell. It's my headphone cable. Hopefully it's not affecting you guys at all. That looks really weird. That's because it should look like this. No, I agree, Shape. I agree that it's really great. We'll get there. But so you can see right now what the price per points are, but obviously that's going to change. And we're going to be picking up momentum as we go here. So now what we're going to do is go back to our tier list and we're going to rank them all based off of, here we go, tier list. We're going to pull them all off again and we're going to rank them. Come on, let me pull it off. Oh man, I was able to do this earlier. Oh well, it's looking like I'm going to just have to put them all in D tier for now. And then we're going to rank them based on sound design. All right. So are we having fun yet? Can I get a scum cheers in the chat? Can I get some scum pros and some scum Oberheims? I'm having fun, even though this is satanically painful to have to split the hairs. You know, it's rough. What's up, Hans? Roy, we are only talking about the modern synths you can get. So no discontinued synths. Not even the Prophet X, which you can still buy new, but is discontinued. So just the 10 modern sequential Oberheims. To do all of this with all the vintage ones and the DSI would just be fucking crazy. But go ahead and vote. So in the description is the link to the 3 categories. Go ahead and rank them yourself. And your guys' rankings will count for twice as much as mine. So let's go ahead and do something controversial yet brave. Let's put Prophet Rev 2 in S tier. Now we're not ranking the interface where we've determined, Carl helped me out earlier pointing out, okay, we don't have polymod directly on the front panel with the Rev 2. We got a mod matrix, but that's like menu diving. So that's going to knock it in the interface category. Let's also put the Pro 3 up in S tier. In fact, it should probably be like this, right? Are we crazy for doing that? So I boomered it up. I can't delete your vote, unfortunately. All you could do is get another IP address and vote again. Now, just looking at the synths, do we think that through 0 FM should knock Rev 2 into A tier? Because from a sound design perspective, that's huge. I'm thinking. Now, see, I'm not seeing Prophet 10 doing particularly well here. Because all of the Oberheim stuff, like just the fact that you have notch filters in these 3 synths, right? So like these 3 are probably going to go in a row somewhere. They've got to. And then in a weird way, through 0 kind of goes ahead there. In a weird way, should it be like this? Should it be like this? You know, like we have to give credit to the multi-mode filters. You know, Trigon we're leaving down there. Fourm. Is Fourm the least powerful sound design wise of all of these synths? It's got polyphonic aftertouch, but let's like put that aside for a second. We could come back to that. I mean, like, okay. Just, I'm not saying all of those are D tier, but real quick, I just have the Prophets here. You know? Now, of the Prophets, these 2 are bitimbral. The Prophet Rev 2 and the 5. One thing that the Rev 2 has over the 5 is 2 outputs on the back. So you can do binaural effects, but you can also just do the random panning that sequential synths do. Mysteriously, the reissue of the Prophet 10 does not have that. So I think we're on sound design already. Yes. So I think 30 FM, I think that's fair for us to put that at the top. Currently, I haven't seen any. I'm glad your murder went well. Or it's complete anyways. I hope it went well. Is there a world in which the bitimbral synths sit in B tier? Because no, they don't have the morphing filters of the synths ahead of them. But they're, in some sense, gotta be the most powerful sound designy type stuff that you can do. Talking about filter FM, I think you could probably do it on the Rev 2. You can definitely do it on the Prophet 10. Okay, trigon and the Prophet 6. Okay, this is sort of starting to look right, doesn't it? Something in this neighborhood? Eric, I think it's just because they didn't come up with it. The fact that they can't backport it, now that's interesting. Like the fact that there hasn't been a firmware update adding through 0 FM to Take 5 seems to indicate there's something about the hardware they changed in TO5 for whatever reason. Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's hard for me. Now, technically, OB-X8 is bitimbral too. You only got 4 voices instead of 8 bitimbrally. But still, I feel like the fact that it's got a notch filter, is there a world where we rank Rev 2 ahead of OB-6? Does that in any way make sense? That's right, Dub. I can't think of anything else. I mean, there's probably some digital implementations of it. And of course, it's been around for a while in Eurorack, but as far as polysynths, I think that solidly puts TO5 in the lead. The real question is, how do we square up A and B tier? It's really tough, isn't it, guys? It's starting to look good, though. I think you can just do more with bitimbral stuff than you can with the OB-6. I hate to say it. Even without those notch filters, that's one thing you can't do. But I think we're looking at a decently final list. I'm going to give the Trigon 6 its flowers here because you do have that third oscillator, which can be a modulation oscillator. And no one seems to be arguing that Fourm's the lowest one. Dekarmic, absolutely. Prophet 6 Trigon and OB-6 was the 4-octave key bed. Yeah, I agree. First time I saw a TO5 or a Prophet 6 live, like in person, I was like, these are so small, because I'm used to these giant boats of vintage synths. Okay, so I think we're happy with that list. I'm going to pull it over here. And we're going to go to spreadsheet here. And we're up. Let's go back. There were some spoilers there. All right. So up first, we have the TO5 with maximum. It's getting 10 points for depth. Then Pro 3 getting a 9. So Pro 3 is sitting pretty for sure. Then OB-X8 with 8. Respectable. Rev 2 finally getting its flowers with 7. That's the 16 voice, by the way. Then the Prophet 10 with 6. OB-6 with 5. Trigon 6 with 4. The Prophet 6 with 3. The Take 5 with 2. And the Fourm with 1. Okay. So, let's take a second and sort these. What is it, Z to A? Let's sort these A to Z, so we can start seeing who's in the front running right now. So TO5 is doing really nice. Hopefully you guys can see that. So $100 price per point, because it's got 16 points. which puts it in third place overall behind Pro 3 and OB-X8, but is cheaper than both of those. Pro 3's got a really great value too. So just an interesting sort of like midpoint break. And again, you guys should definitely vote down below. Gato, that is cool. One thing I like about BT is he tries to be as neutral as he can about some stuff, you know, when it comes to a whole Behringer debate and everything. So now what I'm going to do is grab that tier list back over here. Here we go. And then we're back to the tier list, and we're going to pull them all into the D section, and we're going to talk interfaces. So this is maybe the hardest category, just because, you know, how do you rank the best interfaces? So I'm going to say something controversial, yet brave. Prophet 10, S tier. Let's start with that and see if anything can knock it out. Because the thing is, has it ever been simpler? Next, I want to put the Prophet 6, OB-6, and the Trigon 6 kind of in A tier. And then maybe the Pro 3 up here. Now, I've never owned both a Prophet 6 or one of the other of those two and the Pro 3. For someone to be able to tell me how the knob feel, if it's the same, they seem like they're kind of the same basic construction, right? Now, we're going to put one way to rank these real simple off the bat is Fourm at the bottom, simply because it's got the smallest, cheapest build. And that's nothing to sneeze at, because for $799, it's an incredible value. I absolutely think the Rev 2 should be a B tier. Seems right. It might get knocked down, but I'm thinking something that looks like this overall, just because of the category. Now, I haven't messed with OB-X8, so this is the tough one, because OB-X8 out of all of these has a lot of page 2. Even to do stuff like detune the oscillator is a page 2 function, which is kind of fucking crazy. Alarock says Pro 3 is incredibly easy to use, but I'd say it's better than the Prophet 6, having had both of these. Perfect. So actually, the real question is OB-X8 a better interface than TO5? And unfortunately, I have to say it's probably not. For some reason, I mean, here's what I think it was, is I think Marcus Ryle, he designed the OB-8, which has a lot of page 2. And I think they wanted it to look like an OB-X. And it wouldn't look like an OB-X if they put another 20 knobs on it. But yeah, I agree, Swan. I just don't think it would be hard for me to rank the Fourm ahead of like Take 5, for instance, right? It's just Take 5 has, I think, a few more knobs, and that it kind of just comes down to that, like very similar architectures, almost the same voice count too. But I do think Take 5 and TO5 are slightly easier to use than OB-X8. Yeah, you have the auxiliary envelopes like you have in the Prophet 12 and the Polyevolver. That's a really good point. Is there a sick world where the Pro 3 actually wins this? I'm asking you, Dub. Like, in a weird way. Because what you could say about the Prophet 5 is that it's exactly knob per function, no menu diving. But is that kind of true with the Pro 3 also? It's hard to say. Oh, there is a detune os knob. There's something else I'm thinking of then that is a page 2 that I was like, that absolutely seems like it should be just one of the fun ones. Adapt says it's probably got one of the best. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if I could. Is there a weird world where it's got a better interface? Let me look at something real quick here. Do I have it up on... Here we are. What am I looking for here? So there's no polymod section on the Sequential Take 5. Now there isn't on the Rev 2 either, but, you know, that might be okay. Where's my... Do I have a Rev 2? Yeah, I would say... You do get the auxiliary envelope. You get 3 envelopes on the front panel of the Rev 2 versus the 2 there. But you do get 2 LFOs on the front panel, which you don't get on there. So hard to... Really splitting hairs. I'm with Alarock here. Overall, it's good, not better than Prophet 10. Yeah, Synthenon, there is like some weird shit. Like, especially when it comes to the bitembrality. I agree, Shape. I mean, I think there's no doubt Pro 3 is going to get its flowers tonight, just looking at the ranking overall. If I had to rank... It's really hard to rank the 6, the TO5, and the Trigon. I'm kind of leaning towards just this ranking, because they originally made the layout for the 6 and then adapted the other 2. So I'm feeling good about this ranking. I think this is right. Try turning on bitemporal on Prophet 10 without the manual. Okay, fair point. Fair point. Sledge has an awesome interface. For sure. I just... Is there... Okay, in a weird way, is there a world where Fourm's better than OB-X8? Probably. I actually think that's probably right. Horrifically. That OB-X8... And obviously, OB-X8 is probably the one of these synths that I'd like to have. And again, there is not a bad Sequential Oberheim interface. It just is, when you're looking at all of these, like, which are the most immediate? I think this ranking is right. Yeah, I think this is... OB-X8 has a lot of page 2 functions to it. Gingy, welcome. Can I get a scum Ober for Gingy? Yeah. Now remember, this is just... We're ranking the interface right now. Let's just go ahead and just interface synth tier list. Just in case anybody is new here. We're not ranking... We're going to get to the overall ranking. But that's not where we're at right now. We're just ranking narrowly the interface. And if anybody's new here and they're just showing up here, definitely go rank them for yourself. In the link is in the description. Yeah. So shift functions. Yeah, it's just got more shift functions than any of the rest of them. I think this is right. I think we've successfully, again, kind of come up with how it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and go to, let's see here, and then tier list, and then pull this up. Here we go. There we are. So for the interface, who's at the top is the Prophet 10, gets 10 points. Girl, the Pro 3 is cleaning up. So that's got 9 points. Next up we have, weirdly, Prophet 6 is doing really well with 8 points, then 7 points for OB-6, and then 6 points for Trigon 6. Right? Prophet Rev 2 16 voice gets 5 points. I feel like it's getting crushed in this list. It's just tough because they're all so good, you know. I love Prophet Rev 2, and personally, I'd probably buy an OB-X8 and then a Prophet Rev 2 would be my second pick. So I feel bad for it, but it is what it is. TO5 gets 4 points. Take 5 gets 3 points. Here we go. And then Fourm mysteriously gets the 2 points here. And then brutally, where is OB-X8? Why am I not seeing it? OB-X8 gets the 1 point. So if we now sort this list again, we can see, oh, I should sort it the other way. Let's go A to Z. Yeah, there we go. The Pro 3, as far as my points go, are now in the lead, right? It's got the total score of 26 points. Then TO5. As far as price per point goes, by the way. As far as synths in the 20s, it's Prophet 10, TO5, and Pro 3. But the Pro 3 and TO5 are really justifying its points by the way there. So now we get to have a lot of fun, because what we're going to do is get to see what you guys thought about everything. So let me see the results here. So now we're jumping in to, these are the results that you guys voted. So these are, rank these synths by sound quality. Probably not surprisingly, OB-X8 is at the top. Prophet 10, OB-6, TO5. Interestingly, we were able to sort of rationale out that the TO5, for me anyways, beats it out for 3.0 FM. But you guys voted OB-6 narrowly, which I understand. Above Prophet 6, above Pro 3, above the Prophet Rev 2 16 voice, Trigon 6, Take 5. I'm not surprised Fourm's at the bottom, but I'm not surprised by these three being at the bottom, although I do think Take 5, it's like in another life, it's just as good as anything else, isn't it? You know? So now what we're going to do is go back to the spreadsheet, and I'm going to take the results here, and we're going to add these in from you guys. Whoa. Yeah. So for the sound from, we're going to sort these by price again, just so it's a little easier for me. A to Z. OB-X8, this is your guys, you guys ranked these by sound quality, gets 10. Then the Prophet 10 gets 9. I wonder how closely this will correlate with price. OB-6 gets 8. TO5 gets 7. Prophet 6 gets 6. Pro 3, again, this is y'all's vote here, gets 5. Prophet Rev 2 gets 4. Trigon 6 gets 3. Take 5 gets 2, and Fourm gets 1. So, pretty cool. All right. Now, what we're going to do... Yeah, in the right hands, the Pro 3 is a beast. I agree with that. Now we're going to go ahead and reload this and see where we're at. Interesting. Very interesting. So, ranking these synths by modulation and sound design depth. So these are your votes now. But points per voice is funny, actually. Pro 3 coming out at the top. Then, interestingly, and see, this is kind of like what I felt in my heart, which is the Prophet Rev 2. Just what you can do with so many voices. How you can turn it into like an LA synthesizer with that many voices, right? Pretty crazy, though, that people put TO5 in front of OB-X8 in terms of sound design. Trigon 6 ranked really high this time, which I'm happy about. Remember, these points, the points that you guys voted on, count for more than my points. It's 2/3 what you guys have to say, 1/3 what I have to say. Take 5 ranking above OB-6 is a little crazy to me. I think y'all might have been hitting the opium on that one. Prophet 6, OB-6, Prophet 10 ranks really low. That's fucking wild. When you consider the reason someone would rank Prophet Rev 2 so high is because it's bitimbral, of course. So Prophet 10 being bitimbral, it's surprising it's so low. But again, this is how you guys see it. I do think the drive on the Trigon 6 is cool, and that third oscillator being able to be a modulation oscillator but also audible is cool. Jordash, I don't know. You guys voted. This isn't my ranking. This is y'all's. You guys voted. So let's go ahead and put these in the charts here. So sorry for slapping my microphone there. So now we're doing by the depth, the modulation possibility, sound design. So at the top, Pro 3. Y'all love the Pro 3. I'm glad to see it. Rev 2 gets 9 points. Love to see it. TO5 gets 8 points. OB-X8, rank number, gets 7 points. Trigon 6 finally pulling ahead with 6 points again. Seems to always kind of be in that area. Take 5 with 5 points. OB-6 with 4. Now that is crazy to me. Prophet 6 with 3. Prophet 10 with 2. That's wild, y'all. And then Fourm at the bottom. Again, I'm not surprised at all that Fourm's not crushing it right now. And then let's finally reload this page and see what you guys thought in terms of ease of programming. So Prophet 10 at the top, I think that's makes a lot of sense, right? And you can see that as many people voted for it as the top. Oh, can it? You can use Pro 3. That third oscillator is a modulation oscillator. Super cool. That's really cool, Alarock. So, not surprised that Prophet 10 was many people's highest ranking synth here. Trigon 6 scoring so high. Wild. I would have put the Prophet 10 and the Pro 3 at the top. Prophet 6 makes sense, also very immediate. OB-6 makes sense. Rev 2 makes sense. OB-X8 makes sense. Now, here's where I think there's a little bit of price biasy, where TO5 and Take 5 are lower than the OB-X8, where I would even say the Fourm probably has a better interface. One thing that I don't think I really said, but I meant to say, is that part of how I factored in my pricing was just the bigger the synth, the bigger the knobs, the more space between the knobs, it's a lot easier to work with. You know, for me, I'm looking at my, let's see if you can see it here on camera. It's just off camera, but some of my programmers, like for my JX10, very small knobs. Better than nothing, for sure. But again, when we're splitting points here, I can see why Fourm would score low, but the shift functions in OB-X8, I think is the only time out of all 10 of these synths where you could say a lot of the sound design is locked behind shift functions. Yeah. So I think this is good. So now we're going to integrate these in here. There we are. So our final category. So Prophet 10 easily clears it. Trigon 6 with 9 points. Pro 3 with 8 points. Then Prophet 6 with 7. OB-6 with 6. Rev 2 with 5. OB-X8 with 4. See, I agree with that. And then we get to TO5. 3, 2, and then 1 for Fourm. Now we've officially figured this out. So let's look at the rankings before we put them on the final list here. So looking at my points first and foremost. We're going to sort A to Z, also known as last to first place. So as far as the points go, as far as I'm considered, and with your guys' opinions helping me get there, Fourm takes last place. 9th place goes to Take 5. These are the overall ranking, right? Rev 2, tragically in 8th place. Trigon 6, Prophet 6. OB-X8 not scoring all that well. Really getting... Oh, that's because I'm missing a point on the interface here. What was the... Is this the worst one? Let me see. Yeah, I forgot to put a point in there. So it should just be a point of 1. Anyways, back to points here. Let's see if that changes anything. OB-X8, yeah, it went up a little bit. It's tied actually with OB-6 overall, which actually in a weird way feels correct to me, you know, that you would say, hey, you know, Rev 2 and Trigon 6 are tied, and then OB-6 and OB-X8, they're kind of like, you get some, you lose some, right? A little bit better overall sound with X8, but OB-6 has the better interface. TO5, very strong. Prophet 10, really high up on the list, just because of the interface and the classic sound. And then Pro 3 is my top tier synthesizer, personally. Yeah, definitely getting flowers. So then let's look at y'all's ranking. So we're going to sort now this way. So you two put Fourm in last place. Not surprising. Take 5 coming up next. Sad to say, it just is what it is. Prophet 6 ranking pretty low, actually, below the Rev 2. So you guys value the Rev 2 over the Prophet 6, which isn't what I would have guessed. I would have thought, yeah. That does seem like the formatting is wrong there. Let me go see and make sure that, let's just delete that and make sure that that is a divide. 2000 by this score. Let's see what happens. There we go. Fix the price per point. Good catch there. Thank you, Mr. Danderskoff. That is funny, Aquatic, actually. Anyways, back to it. So, Trigon 6, middle of the pack. OB6, middle of the pack. Not surprised by that. TO5, good, but not ranking as high as OB-X8, Prophet 10, and you guys really love the Pro 3 too. It's hard to argue with. So I have a conspiracy theory. I think some of you guys have heard this before, that it seems to me like the Pro 3 was the last real synth that Dave Smith really led. Now I know they said Trigon 6 posthumously he worked on, and I believe that, but what I will say is, reading the Prophet from Silicon Valley, the book about sequential circuits and the history, they talk about Prophet 6 and how uninvolved Dave Smith was even with Prophet 6, where he was like, look, you know what it's got to sound like, so just make it sound like what it's got to sound like, but I'm not that interested. And he kind of even says that in the Prophet 5 ad, where he's like, just doing the same thing's kind of boring, I want to do something new. So I think for him, the ability to swap the filters and, you know, be able to pull off the Prophet 10, which they weren't really able to do all that well back in the 80s. When you look at the Pro 3, it is such a DSI synth, a Dave Smith Instruments synth. Like when he said it was like a one-person company and he was making products, it really feels like the final evolution of that. And then somehow we didn't get the Pro 3, we didn't get that interface. You could take that exact same interface and make it polyphonic and just print money. But for some reason, they weren't able to do that. Maybe it wasn't going to work on the Prophet 6 format, you know, because clearly that was what they were trying to do, is maybe put that out somehow, and that wasn't going to happen space-wise, because those are pretty compact. Yeah, I think that must have been what it was, Alarock. So that's that. Now, we double your guys' points here, and then let's make sure that I just did that right by... Yeah, no, I selected that right. By the double. Oh, wait. No. You're right. This is wrong. Instead of K10, it should be K11. No. Not, wait, 10. It should be HAJKL. 10? Is that right? There we go. Okay, I think I've done it right now. That's right. The final price divided by final score. Let me just make sure that's right on all of these. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, so now we have reached the final ranking. So we're going to actually rank these together. So we're going to do this price per point. Actually, I'm going to do it in backwards. I guess this is fine for now. So I'm going to get the tier list back out. We're going to bring this back. I'm going to bring this over here. And then we're going to go to the tier list. Here we are. And then I'm going to pull up my little spreadsheet here. And yes, we have them in order now. So I'm going to pull everything down to the bottom. And this is our official ranking. So just to clarify one more time, we ranked all 10 of these sequential Oberheim synths based off of 3 categories. The sound, which is just like how good the synth sounds raw, the oscillators and the filters. The depth, which is the possibility for sound design, novel features, novel architecture, flexibility, extra filter modes, modulation matrices, all of that. That's the second category. And then the third category is the interface. How easy and fun is a synth to program? So I ranked them live with you guys, and then you guys voted for them and ranked them yourselves. My vote counts for 1/3 of the final score, and y'all's vote counts for 2/3 of the final score. And this is the ultimate list here. So, in dead last place, someone's gonna fucking kill me for doing this. But in dead last place, we have Oberheim OB-X8. Because the interface scored so low and the synth costs so much. You guys really convinced me that, yeah, actually, yeah, can I get another scum cheers in the chat for Dave Smith? I've got just a little bit of watered down Pathfinder last. Yeah. Ooh, Mr. Cowfood's right. It is chromatically stepped. I would have totally have docked it for that. Oh, but it is what it is. We're at the point. Good point. But Oberheim OB-X8 is a great synth, don't get me wrong. But when you consider how it has the weakest interface of all 10 sequential Oberheim synths, you just can't give it that much. It scored, its final score was 61 points, which was actually quite high. It just happens to be the most expensive synth at $5,000. And again, the way we're ranking these is based off of value. You guys worked hard for your money, and I want to tell you what's the best value you can get from that money. Not just what's the most, people assume the most expensive one has the best value, or, you know, the cheapest one is the best value because it's the cheapest, of course. So, next up, what else do we have in D tier? Well, unfortunately, the Prophet 6. And I think that's just because a lot of the Prophet 6, the OB-6, the Trigon 6, kind of middle of the pack in all of these. And the Prophet 6, not as exciting when it comes to this. Yeah, very expensive synth too, $3,500, right? Now, in C tier, in 8th place, I think fairly, we get Fourm. Meaning that in terms of value, Fourm's a better buy than OB-X8. It's also like way less. You can get one for $800 right now, which is pretty crazy. Just lore in 6-track is E tier. That's funny. So the cheapest synth still in C tier though. So that goes to show that just because it does sound good, didn't rank that high on much. In fact, it only got a final score of, let me look at the final score over here. The final score of 11 points, as opposed to 61 points for OB-X8. It just happens to be so much cheaper that it kind of works out. In 7th place, we actually have Trigon 6 in C tier. So I think that sounds about right. Kind of comes ahead. It's got a little bit more. You've got discrete VCOs, 3 per voice. Pretty cool. If you wanted a memory Moog, but you didn't want to spend memory Moog money, that's what the Trigon 6 is. In 6th place, we have the Prophet 10. Now, the Prophet 10 got some of the most points out of any. In fact, I think it got the most points. The total points of almost the most points, 67 points altogether. So with that in mind, the only reason it's the only reason it's ranking in B tier and not A or S is just because it's $4,400. And so every synth ahead of this, I don't think 6-track is in Twin Peaks. I think you're thinking of the Prophet T8, Swan of Nutella. There is a Prophet T8 that was used in the soundtrack, mostly as a master keyboard, but it might have been in there somewhat. So then ahead of Prophet 10, we have OB-6. And this feels right, where for me, OB-6 is an incredible synthesizer, but maybe just passed up by some other better synths at this point. Oh, is it in the show? Oh, I've got to check that out. That's so cool. I didn't know that. So, interestingly, Take 5 is actually up next. So Take 5 didn't score incredibly well. In fact, when we're looking at some of the prices here, let me look at Take 5. Yeah, 27 points. The highest score was 72. The lowest score was 11. So kind of middle, bottom of the track. That's really great. I mean, it's just because it's such a great value. So what that tells me is it did well enough in all of the tests from me as well as you guys that its price didn't hold it back. Whereas Fourm didn't do well enough that the price was worth it, you know? And of course, guys, this is all a silly little exercise just to it's easy to get people's feelings hurt over synthesizers, especially if you bought a really expensive one. We all have our favorites, but this is just a fun way to sort of quantify value in a pseudo-scientific way. So we now have our top 3. Drum roll, please. Oh, I'm so stoked to say this. So, number 3 is the Prophet Rev 2. Wow. Incredible. So, again, really struggled through this battle, you know. Definitely had a tough fight, but guess what? It is an A tier synth. Wow. Now, a big part of that's its price. $3,000 is not nothing, but compared to a $5,000, $3,500, $4,400 synth, $3,000 is actually a bargain for a lot of the prices that we're looking at today. And I think it deserves that A tier. I'm a big fan of the Rev 2. I think I said it already that honestly for me, I'd probably buy the OB-X8 and the Rev 2 if I was going to buy 2 of these synths, just because they're more what I like out of synths. But I think that that's right. And then, drum roll please. Like and subscribe to keep the channel alive. In 2nd place, we have TO5. So our first of the 2 S tiers. So I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by that TO5, especially for the price, right? $1,600 on sale right now is so good. So cool. And then, obviously, you guys know who the winner is, right? The best S tier synthesizer you can get from Sequential or Oberheim is the Pro 3. And I could see some people saying, well, it's just hard to compare a monosynth to the polysynths. And that's right. It is. We're only comparing kind of one voice or the paraphonic 3 voices to what all of these other synths can do. But what I think it is that the Pro 3 sounds great. It's probably got the best interface out of all of these, arguably against the Prophet 10. And it's just got more flexibility. Now, if they ever made a polyphonic version of the Pro 3, it would be at the top of the list, I guarantee you. They could charge more than the rest of these, but we'd probably all be drooling over it and want one. And that's the thing, Eric Nichols. They're all so darn close. It's rough. It's rough. So looking at the list, it's interesting because the most expensive synth is in last place. And I think what that goes to show, I'm afraid that Marcus Ryle is going to watch this video and unsubscribe so fast. But what I think that just says is, because this final ranking is based off of the price, is that Sequential and Oberheim put out such incredible products that the way I contrived to make this list, which is based off of price per point, it just happens to be that OB-X8 really gets hamstrung because of its price. Now, on the other hand, Prophet 10 did really well, but I think that's because of the simplicity of the interface and the classic sound help really get it a lot of points that it was able to counteract its price, Prophet 6 being at the bottom, yeah, and that's a good thing too. Dubstation brings up a good point about resale value, because the resale on an OB-X8 is rough. The devaluation is like 40% or something, whereas the cheaper ones actually hold their value better. Carl says, my friend has a Pro 3. I've always wondered how it would rate against the Voyager. That would be a really interesting comparison, because the Pro 3 has that ladder filter in it. So if it could get 95% of the way there with the Voyager, but then it also has a morphing SEM plus that, then again, you've got a Moog 1, so you've kind of got that already as well. And my friend Vincent Presley's been doing some really great videos comparing his Prophet 10 to the Moog 1, which hasn't made the Prophet 10 look great. I mean, it makes the Moog 1 look like it can basically replace somebody's Prophet 10. Mr. Denderskoff says, basically, is the Prophet 12 worth getting, or get something else? That's another thing. I mean, obviously, we're talking about retail prices now, but if you can get a Rev 2 for cheaper, or any of these synths used cheaper, that's a great thing. I think Prophet 12 is great. I don't know what the street price on Reverb is. Why don't we just why don't we go on a journey together? That's okay. I think it's okay for us to do that at this point of the stream. Let's just go look for Prophet 12. Let's see what we can buy them for today. I don't know. I haven't looked them up in a while. I'll eventually probably sell mine, but let's just see what they're going for. 1850. Oh, that's from Korea, South Korea. So I don't know if that's a... Oh wait, that's with $500. I thought it was 1850. That's 23. So $2,000. Nope, that's from Florida, but that's the desktop. From Canada, almost $3,000. Holy shit. These things are getting expensive. Would I pay $3,000 for a Prophet 12? I probably wouldn't. I don't know if you guys could see. Oh, sorry. I think the layout's kind of rough for you guys to see what I'm doing. I'm going to go back to the tier list. Basically, $3,000 if you want to get one on the continent. Yeah. Upper 1,800 to 2K is like where I think a Prophet 12 should be. $3,000 is a lot. So that's interesting. I would say, with the price of a Rev 2 16 voice, which I think is the most easiest comparison, with that synth being $3,000, $2,000 for a Prophet 12 is a fucking steal. If you just go off of that. Where it gets harder is like $1,600 for a TO5 versus, even if it's $2,000 for a Prophet 12. That's going to be a different strokes for different folks type situation. My friend Dubstation Zero has really convinced me, and we did a live stream. You should check it out. I think it's like, is the Prophet 12 the best synth for EBM industrial? Where it's one of the songs that plays in the background actually while we're this whole stream. The sound design on it got fucking probably the coolest that I've ever done live. And that's the thing about the Prophet 12 is the interface and everything is basically like the Pro 3 except without the multi-mode filter, and it's just awesome and dark and industrial. I think that it's a taste though. It's more geared to me and my type of music, which is darker, more aggressive than the other Prophets are for sure. If you think of it as like, is it a good substitute for that Prophet sound versus something like Take 5? Probably not. Take 5 is probably going to be the better option if you just want it to sound like a Prophet 5 but not pay Prophet 5 prices, you know. Bitimbral is really cool. I did some bitimbral stuff on the SQ80 that you were telling me about, Dub, for this upcoming video. And it's gorgeous. Yeah. Yes, polychaining TO5s is super powerful. So, Carl, you've got a Voyager, a Moog 1, and a Mini Moog now, right? So you've kind of like, what else from Moog could you possibly want? Other than, like, I'm always trying to push you to get a Prodigy, but but why would you need to get another one? Bought a Voyager for 2K and sold it for 4. That's awesome. Oh, then Danderskoff, then you should get it. Because that's what that synth is sound design, and not because you want a Prophet sound. If you like how grungy it can get, you're not going to be disappointed. Because the analog distortion's like way better than the Andromeda. Yeah. I'm a huge Korg fan. Moog Matriarch versus Pro 3. That's a tough one. I wonder what the chat would say. I'm going Pro 3. Personally. Because you got the ladder filter, but you're not stuck with the ladder filter. Yeah. Yeah. What's going on with Pliskin? Sorry, did I miss something? The third wave basically does have Prophet filters. That's right. The third wave is like, it's just such a crazy synth, like in terms of polyphony and everything it can do. I'm more leaning towards that as being the final girl energy synth currently, 2026. I know everybody voted for Quantum in the best synths of the year video, but especially with sampling, because I was talking about hybrid sampling synthesizers like the Emax and the DSS-1 in my upcoming video. And one thing I realized is that is a very out of fashion category, and it shouldn't be. So like the modern sampling synthesizers, there's basically only 3. Prophet X, which is discontinued, Quantum 2, which is the most expensive polysynth, and Groove Synthesis third wave, which is still $5,000, right? I don't mind at all, Alarock. In fact, if you want to use them for the final release, we can work that out. I'd be happy to have them be in there. I'd have to charge you something, but I'd just be happy to know that they found a good home, to be honest. But please, please, please. Yes. If Quantum had a third wave filter, it'd be so sick. Yeah, that's just the big thing. It's like, I don't think anybody buys a Quantum because they think it has the best filter. And for me, that's like, I'm just too much of a snob. Can I get some scum snobs in the chat, you know? Because that's the thing. Yeah. So, Carl, thank you as always for the pimpage. So, what do you guys think about this list? I know it's crazy. It's crazy to have OB-X8 at the bottom. But this is like what I'd want people to really get, which is that you don't need to spend as much money as you think. And also, sometimes the cheapest thing is still kind of C tier because it just isn't You know, I did a poll on the channel recently asking what people thought of Behringer. And the most common response was great value, but not always inspiring. And that is a really scary response to me. Now, of course, I could have written the questions better. You know, some people rightly criticized. I only had 36 characters per answer for the poll, so it was difficult. I was trying to kind of do like 100%, 75% like, 25% like, and 0% like. Yeah, so if we did it by overall vote, why don't we rearrange here real quick and we'll re-rank. So this would be the... let's do it this way. Yeah, here we go. So let's do a tier list if money is no object. So instead of value, just like money is no object, if you had to buy a synth, what would it be? So in last place is Fourm. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. And then Take 5, right? Yeah, it is what it is. Surprisingly, Prophet 6 ends up in C tier, and then the Rev 2 ends up in C tier ahead of it. And again, I can kind of see why. Then we get Trigon 6 in B tier. This is off of overall points. The final score, which is again determined 2/3 by the chat's vote and 1/3 by my vote. So we have Trigon 6 and then OB-X8 ahead of Trigon 6. Then TO5, which is great when you think that TO5 is A tier, even if price is not a factor. Then OB-X8 ahead of it, right? So that feels right, you know. In fact, I think this is how people probably would have preferred me rank the synths, then Prophet 10, and then again, Pro 3 is the number one synth. So this is the list that I think people are expecting to see, which is here's your S tier, the best. A tier, you've got the OB-X8, TO5. B tier, you've got Trigon 6 and OB-X8. C tier, you've got Prophet 6 and Rev 2. D tier, you've got Take 5 and Fourm. In fact, I bet you, aside from maybe Pro 3, this is what everybody assumed the list would look like. But to me, this list is not as valuable as ranking them by value, because I just care about your money more than I think a lot of people who want to watch this video do, in the sense that there's this part of our brain as synthesizer sickos that just wants to have the very best, you know? But best is not indeterminate of value, right? Otherwise, we should just all go out and buy CS80s. We should all just sell our houses and our cars and whatever we have and just, you know, work to buy CS80s. But that doesn't make sense, right? There has to be some correlation between value and the sound. That's always a contention. And so despite the fact that a lot of vintage synths are expensive, I really do want to always encourage people to make great choices with their money. And the truth is, the previous version of the list is what I want you people, my friends, to go out with, which is the ranking with the price per point, you know? So that's the Pro 3 at the top, then TO5, then the Rev 2. Then Take 5 makes a huge jump because of how affordable it is. OB-X8 doesn't change ranking. Prophet 10 drops to B. Trigon 6 really doesn't change ranking all that much. Fourm jumps up. And then the Prophet 6, and then finally OB-X8. This, to me, is what I want people to go home with, you know? If we did a second synth list, Trigon 6 would probably rank a lot higher. That's right. That's a very good point, because I think one of our biases is that we're thinking of it as like, if you had to have one, which one would you get? And Trigon 6 does not rank particularly high. I don't think there is a modern heir to the CS80 throne. I don't think there's Deckard's Dream is definitely the closest, right? But other than that, I can't really think of anything that feels like a CS80, to be honest, and that doesn't have a key bed. I mean, if anything, I'd say the Andromeda kind of was a modern version, and then, you know, if you're the ASM stuff is there kind of in terms of the interface and the polyphonic aftertouch, but which one would replace my favorite synth if the current one craps out tomorrow, right? Yeah. Half of the synths of 65 synths under 2K. Well, that's the thing, though. The vintage synths, I don't want to spoil. Udo is really great, too, of course. Yeah, actually, Super Gemini would probably be a very good. Polybrute 12, Super Gemini. Those are very fair points, actually, now that I think about it. You're right. Polybrute 12 can do a 2-pole multi-mode filter, right? And then Super Gemini, different sound, but very cool, sort of, you know, similar ethos, I would say. I don't know. I'm again kind of in this idea of like caring about people's value. I think Quantum's just overrated. I don't know if it would be D tier on a list. So if you guys have made it this far with me, I appreciate you hanging out through the whole tier list. If you did, drop a black heart emoji in the comments below, because I love you guys. And if you had fun and you want to do something like this again, drop an idea in the comments. Like we could rank all the Behringer synths. We could rank, we could also do categories. We could rank hybrid synths. We could rank, an idea I had was different setups. So like if you had $500, what's the best way to do it? You know, spend the money. Magnolia is very, very cool. And one of the only synths that feels like a new concept compared to virtually everything else in the field. So if you guys want to see something more like this, please let me know down in the comments. Continue to be excellent, guys. And I'm going to see you next week.